Brooks is President Emeritus at the American Enterprise Institute and professor at Harvard University, has a new book, Build the Life You Want, The Art and Science of Getting Happier. And it's not like Will Smith, H-A-P-P-Y. And this is, you spell it correctly, with an I. Okay. Co-authored with Oprah Winfrey. What I want to talk about, I guess, is whether, after all these years, has your notion of what makes for a happy life changed? Isn't it about earned success? And to bring it back to GM and Ford and the UAW, isn't that what these workers are trying to do? Earn their own success to fit in with this world in the best way they can?
That's what everybody wants. I mean, look,
is that still what happiness is to you? Or have you changed it?
No, not at all. But what we want is to be happier as people, and that means progress throughout our lives. We want to make moral progress. We want to have better relationships. We want to create value with our lives and with our work. These are the things that we want. And, you know, we talk about the science in this book, but a lot of it comes down to common sense. When you see something like what's going on with the UAW strike, I mean, it's perfectly easy to understand. I mean, these workers are looking at their next door neighbor got a raise last year because they don't work under collective bargaining agreements, and they can't afford groceries. So of course they're doing the natural thing, and this is what we're going to see until we have actual decent policy that gets inflation under control, frankly.
The other question that I was going to ask you was, can we get happier with the proliferation of social media and the way it is right now? Has that helped? For my son, it has definitely helped. I don't know what he would have done if you didn't have this to do all the time. And you can enrich, you can find out everything. You have an Encyclopedia Britannica on your phone, basically, and everything. But is it, bottom line, is it making us happier or less happy?
For most of us, no. That's the answer. And we talk about this a lot in the book because we're looking at the brain science, the neuroscience, and social science of happiness, and it's basically, this book is an owner's manual for your emotions. And the interesting thing, the reason we wrote it is I teach this class at the Harvard Business School on happiness, and my students say, look, I can manage money, I can manage a company, but I can't manage my feelings. And the reason is because we don't understand the way our emotions work, and until we can treat our emotions with the same seriousness that people do in their business lives. Look, every good CEO is watching us today, and a lot of them feel very much in control of their companies and very much not in control of their own emotions, and that's actually what we're trying to turn around. Same kind of business.
Is the tribalism, I mean, we can't get away from the political and cultural tribalism. I guess that's exacerbated by social media.
Absolutely.
Right?
Look, this is a...
But the players involved aren't helping. I mean, we know how Donald Trump liked, I don't know, but didn't they, I don't know, there were media organizations that calculated 14,200 lies or something. Look, Joe Biden is no slouch in the at least distorting, or maybe he doesn't even know a lot of it. But our politicians are making things worse.
Yeah, well, we have a culture right now of polarization, largely because we're rewarding what psychologists call dark triad personalities. You know what that is? Say that again. Dark triad personalities. So dark triad personalities are people who combine narcissism, Machiavellianism, and traits of psychopathy. So narcissism is, it's all about me. Machiavellianism is, I'm willing to hurt you.
Do anything to get
and traits of psychopathy means basically I have no empathy and no conscience. And we're rewarding people like this. Look, you get what you pay for. And when we fire up a lot of elements in the media and all of the elements of the political structure all around us, and we reward bullies and people who actually don't have any conscience, guess what we're going to get?
This is all making me unhappy.
Well, you know what? We can actually turn this around. The reason that I'm actually working right now to try to create a happiness movement in this country is not because you need better whiz-bang ideas about public policy, but because you need people to realize that happiness is under their control in their lives, and they need to demand it in the people who represent them.
So we talked about this a little bit. I saw him earlier this week. And this idea that everybody increasingly, especially in a social media world, craves external validation. Right? People talk about, could you get validation from yourself, or do you actually need validation from
Got a lot of likes on our discussion yesterday.
From everybody else. Do you need that validation from everybody else? And you talked about friends and family, and that being a huge component of actually your own happiness.
Yeah.
Is there anything, is there even a thing called internal validation, or is all validation ultimately external? And if that's true, what does that mean?
Well, the truth is
that goes to all of these things you're talking about. The
problem that we have, you talked about social media, our world is full of mirrors. at this point. And if you can actually get away from it, one of the things that we recommend in the book, and I recommend to my students at Harvard, is that they go through days, at least hours, without the mirrors in their lives so they can observe the outside world. If you want to be happier, you got to be in what psychologists call the I self, looking out at the world without so much judgment of yourself. The problem is notifications on your phone are a mirror. It's interesting. You know, I was talking to a guy when I was preparing this book, when I was writing this book. He was a fitness influencer. It's like his shirt off on Instagram.
I do that.
Yeah, I know. I know that's like you go under an assumed name. I know what's going on.
Right. I'm what you don't want to do. Yeah.
And he said that he didn't eat anything he wanted for 10 years. He was completely miserable. So here's what he decided to do. He took every mirror out of his house and showered in the dark for a year so he couldn't see his own abs, and he finally got happy. He finally actually found the secret of happiness by not looking at himself anymore. That's the secret, is look out at the world in a sense of awe.
It's also where you point out in the book that we are trained to really, all the way back to caveman times, we are trained to look at negativity, that has been a survival technique.
Right.
I think it still is to a certain extent in some pretty mean industries.
Yeah.
But being grateful can take you out of that and working really hard on that. You have a really good I've been working hard on trying to be more grateful with them, but you have a good exercise for how people.
Yeah, we have a gratitude list exercise that we put in the book that's based on a lot of psychological research. And the research is not that important because actually just the habits work on this. You're right. We have a negativity bias. We go through life saying this is bad, not because we're negative people, but because in the Pleistocene era, if you didn't pay attention to the negative, something really bad would happen to you. So we have literally more brain space dedicated to negative than positive events, but that's maladapted. I mean, look at us. Look at the people watching us. We live in the greatest country, most charitable, upwardly mobile place in the history of the world. And we're like, ugh, look at the news. It's so...
I know, but a lot of people watching us work in industries where you are going to get knifed in the back by a cop.
No, I get it, but their lives, for the most part, are so much better than they are bad. And so your point is this, and what we talk about in the book is literally write down, bring to your prefrontal cortex the things for which you're grateful. That's emotional substitution. When you feel resentment, choose gratitude, and it actually works. And we have an exercise where you write down the 5 things you're most grateful for on Sundays, review the list, update the list every week. After 10 weeks, you'll be 25% happier. It actually works.